Hello everyone, welcome back. Disaster. Let's start again. My wife just dropped a litre of water, cold water. She threw the apple in the bin. Anyway, that's a good start to the video because disaster, that's really what we're looking at. The globalists are laughing all the way to the bank. You look at the COVID situation and the awakening that happened with a minority of the total populations of each country, but there was an awakening. There were obviously people who were awake to tyranny and government overreach and media collusion before the COVID. Okay, you look at Libya and you go as far back as the Second Gulf War, attacking Saddam Hussein, Iraq, and destroying the place over weapons of mass destruction that intelligence supposedly got wrong, supposedly. So, they're laughing all the way to the bank because they're looking now at this pre-scripted scenario between Russia, Ukraine, both globalist players, and they're seeing that there's a significant majority of the minority who were awake during the COVID pandemic. Did you follow me on that? Let's start again. So, from the few of us in the population that realized COVID was not such a big threat, did not warrant the lockdowns and the other measures and school closures and vaccine mandates, okay, and coercion for vaccine, and the destruction of the middle class, the damaging mental health on so many in the population, the lack of cancer screening that's now resulting in increased cancer deaths that would have otherwise been avoidable. So, and the list just goes on and on and on and on, right? So, those who had woken up to that now are completely useful idiots when it comes to Russia, Ukraine, completely hook, line and sinker, bought into the narrative. Russia bad, Ukraine good, NATO good, the West is heroic, standing up to Russia at the expense of the middle class. Again, transfer of wealth to the elites. And obviously you can excuse inflation now. Oh, now we do have runaway inflation, but it's because of the Russians. Oh, we have to sanction Russia, which is going to hurt a lot of the pension funds of the middle class. Okay? Increase cost of living because of fuel and heating and things like that affects the working and middle class. I mean, obviously, the poor are already dependent on the government. They'll be protesting for bigger government, right? We need more benefits. The government's caused the problems for the people to then look to the government for solutions. And the globalists must be laughing all the way to the bank because they witnessed an awakening and a movement, and a significant number of those within that movement are back to being lemmings. Because this is a unique event that's come about by Russia's doing, and wasn't pre-scripted by the globalists, by the World Economic Forum, as another way to transfer wealth, destroy the middle class, and further advance their 2030 agenda of the Great Reset, and you'll own nothing, they'll own it all, but you'll own nothing and be happy. I guess the opposite side of the coin is they'll own it all and not be happy. So when I don't listen to people like Ben Shapiro, neocons, okay? I'm not going to include neocons because they're bought and paid for. I might agree with Ben Shapiro on like 95% of things, but the guy's a narcissist and I don't trust him whatsoever. But when you've got someone like Victor Davis Hanson and an organization like the Epoch Times just buying into Russia bad, Ukraine good, the West is obligated to sanction and do what it can against Russia. Not that NATO helped instigate this. The coup 8 years ago, John McCain helped instigate this. That it could be cheaply negotiated. Okay, NATO will stand firm to its diplomatic agreement with Russia and will not look to expand into the Eastern Bloc. It's quite simple, really, but that's not part of the script. And to have people like Victor Davis Hanson just buy in, I don't think he's one for believing in a cabal. He wants to imagine everything's legitimate. All you've got is like mistakes and poor decisions and bad decisions and left and right, okay? But there's very little distinction between left and right in the political sphere. There is in theory, in the voting base, but not amongst the politicians. So it just leaves me more pessimistic, more certain that the future's bleak. Okay? The future's bleak. And if you don't know too much about what's going on between Russia and Ukraine and what I just mentioned, then but you were awake over the COVID, then I highly suggest that you look into the situation more and educate yourself more about it, because the talking points of the mainstream media and all the colluding governments is exactly not what you want to be swallowing right now. When they went against ivermectin, that it's a horse dewormer, potentially lethal, and that in me certainly made me look at ivermectin and say, hey, all this hate must be good, must be something to it. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. The globalists are laughing all the way to the bank, and it's because of not because of bought and paid for neocons that never saw conflict, they didn't want to escalate, but literally because of useful idiots, okay, that just buy into the narrative that there is no cabal, and there clearly frigging well is, and it's all a shit show. Gonna go smoke a cigar, drink a whiskey. Keep well. Hope your pension funds haven't taken too big a hit. Hope you can afford the increase in fuel, heating.